Matt, and this is my channel, Evolve with Monat. I have been just getting downloads after downloads, so if any of you guys pop in here live, God bless you, early risers, wherever you may be. But I wanted to talk about your destiny, and I was getting ready for my day. I have a very early client scheduled that is on the other side of the world, so it's nighttime for them, it's daytime for me, and then I can go back to sleep. But before, so I can get my I'm a professional voice going, I wanted to share with you, for those of you new here, I'm a professional intuitive empath, and this is my channel, Evolve with Monat, where we talk about all manner of subjects from pop culture to personal, and we evolve. And one of the lessons that I have been, in the most beautiful way, getting to walk through myself is the lesson of timing and destiny. It's so funny, I'm thinking of Jack Black and the Pick of Destiny. Maybe that has some significance for someone listening because I've never even seen the movie. I just like Jack Black and I heard that. So I guess my angels wanted me to say it. Sometimes we force things and we try to make people fit into boxes that we think that they should fit in, that they never were meant to fit in, that they don't want to fit in, and that they wouldn't really be good in. I was watching, ironically, of all people, one of the internet's greatest trolls, Trisha Paytas, disclose her pregnancy. It was all over the news. And I have been talking about her a lot lately because of her mental illness and making some comparisons to people with borderline personality and bipolar disorder, of which she says she has, and which I think we can surmise, allegedly, that it's true. But something in her life happened. And even people that are toxic or negative or deleterious for us have a lesson too. She recently got married, and it was highly controversial. She got married to Moses, who is the brother of Gila, and Gila is the wife of Ethan, who runs the H3H3 podcast here on YouTube. Really popular channel, millions of subscribers. Incidentally, I've made more videos than H3H3. They have millions of subscribers. Talk about the pick of destiny, right? That's also a lesson for me too. So that's something that, when you're a YouTuber, you find yourself doing, like looking at the video ratio to subscribers and saying, like, what's going on. And all I keep hearing from my angels is hang on because we have something for you too. I was watching Trisha and she kind of blew up. They did a podcast together, Trisha Paytas and Ethan, called Frenemies. And it imploded because when you're dealing with someone who's bipolar and you're dealing with someone who's a troll like Ethan is, both of them we thought would play well together. But it was never about that podcast. God has a funny way of lining us up in the right places with the right persons for weird reasons that only make sense later. So she thought she was getting on that podcast to create a beautiful synergy. And there was some entertainment that was created, but then it blew up and it made no sense. And Ethan tiptoed and tried, and Trisha trolled and cried, etc., etc., etc. But what happened was she met Moses. Now, Moses could be quite Jafarian, especially with his long hair. He reminded me of Jafar from Aladdin. And maybe he had his own issues of being in the shadows of Gila, and whatever the case may be, I don't know really the deepest history of H3H3 and its origins. I'm only a cursory observer, like anybody on YouTube watches anything. It comes into our algorithm, and we click on it. But what I realized was that as a practitioner, my angels were like, "Are you paying attention? This isn't about them. This was about Trisha and Moses." And I said, "What? How?" Because they were trolled. "Oh, you guys won't last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 6 days," because Trisha is notorious for having major explosions with relationships. And we don't know what will happen with this one. But what I do know is that for whatever reason, she was brought into alignment with him. Recently, she talked about being pregnant after saying for 8 years, from the time she was 25, doctors told her she had terrible scarring, terrible issues, fertility was a non factor for her. She wouldn't conceive. And she didn't even think about it. Was willy-nilly, slept with everybody recklessly. She says it as much in her pregnancy video announcement. She did whatever she wanted to, whatever she pleased, because she didn't think she could get pregnant. And she said she would have had pregnancy or got pregnant by any man that would have impregnated her. But God aligned her with someone with patience, a little bit older, a little bit wiser. And no matter what we think of their marriage and how it began, you cannot deny that a new life is growing in her. At first, we thought she was trolling because it's what Trisha does. She is quite literally, besides Nikocado Avocado, one of the internet's biggest trolls. Another YouTube person. If you're on here, you know. If you know, then you know who Nikocado Avocado is. And Trisha actually conceived, and she talked about some things, which I don't follow her, so I didn't know. But my angels guided me to watch the video. I'm just here scrolling, getting ready for this client. And what they showed me in the video, and I could not deny it, is that she used the law of attraction. She said about a year ago, in 2020 or 2021, she started visualization that she could have a baby. And she said, I'm going to have a baby in 2022. And Moses, it's going to be with you. I want to talk about a couple things that happened. Trisha has dated a lot of people, and it's been tumultuous. One of the most not favorites, but famous, was someone out of David Dobrik's crew. And I can't even think of his name right now. But he was a guy, and they just fought and fought and fought because he couldn't get who Trisha was, and he wasn't supposed to. I guess Moses was. And whether Moses sticks and stays, and I pray for Trisha that she carries the baby all the way with health and grace. When that baby comes through Trisha's body, that baby chooses parents. And that's my belief, that we choose our parents. That's our pick of destiny. We choose what lessons we're going to receive. And my God, what lessons will that baby receive with Trisha being its parent? But what way will that baby change Trisha and cause her to evolve? Even if she's the internet's supervillain, we all deserve an opportunity for evolution. Only she knows what she will do with it. But I wanted to make that example of how she brought to fruition something so magic that she didn't even think was a possibility. But it couldn't happen until she was aligned with the right pick of destiny. Not just a relationship with Moses, but a more peaceful state of mind. With someone who was calm and could help her redefine. Coming out of that terrible podcast explosion and rediscovering her agency. Going on what she calls a spiritual journey. I didn't follow her, so I don't know what that is. I might go back and reverse engineer what happened and see where that began, because it's fascinating to me. Anybody on a spiritual journey fascinates me. And the ways that we're called to spiritual journeys fascinates me. And it's so interesting because she created from nothing, and from a series of no's, she created a yes. And now that yes grows. And that is powerful. She's a troll. She's a person who has delighted in clickbaiting and playing games, mind games. So much so, like we said, the whole internet was like, oh my God, is Trisha just playing a game? Is this a fake pregnancy? She had 7 sticks in her hand in all of her pictures. And I don't think that this is fake. I do think that it is planned, though, because in order to bring it to fruition, she had to change her narrative personally. And she talked about that. She's wearing baby blue. I don't know if it's tell or a gender reveal. A baby doll dress. And her roots are growing out. It feels so real. And I am happy for her. Fertility is something that many people struggle with. And they don't know if they're ever going to have kids. And if that's something that you want desperately, to bring it into fruition is so beautiful. And so for Trisha, I am happy because she's watching a thing grow. We all invest in things, but it all comes down to timing. And I can have put up 500 and to this moment, maybe 18 videos. Maybe this is the 518th video. Um, and it hasn't hit. The pick of destiny hasn't chosen me to be it, but it's been my baby. It's been in gestation. When God tells you to do a thing or gives you guidance into a certain direction, you move in that direction. You move in that direction and you pray for protection, but sometimes things don't come into alignment until the right time. And you have to believe that if you've been shown the vision, that the time will, in fact, sometime be right. I recorded a video earlier tonight with a friend who is in my life and who has begun to do work with me regarding paranormal activity. Now, this is a branch of my business that I have always dealt with, but not fully fleshed out because I was waiting for God to bring the right partner about. I tried to fit a partner into that space. It was not a space that she could hold. She didn't have the emotional maturity. She didn't have the work ethic the same as me. She did not care. She did not have diplomacy. She lacked couth. I could go on and on. This is not a bashing session. It is to say that Ishmael and Isaac is a real game we play. Let me explain. In the Bible, parents were promised a child. I believe it was Sarah and Abraham. And they were promised a child. And they wanted it. And Abraham was getting older and older. Another theme of fertility. And they said, God, you promised me. And Sarah got tired of waiting because she wanted her baby. And they were getting older. Now, in Bible days, people lived and had incredible longevity into their hundreds, multiple hundreds. So they were like in their 70s. And she's like, you promised me a child. So what's good? Where this child be, essentially? And she took it upon herself and she went and got one of the concubines or one of the maids. And she was like, go sleep with Abraham, and the child you bore you will give to me, and we will name him Ishmael. Well, God had already promised him a child. God promised him a child named Isaac. And Isaac was literally the promised child, the promise of God. But Sarah and Abraham, in their impatience, didn't wait. And then eventually it created a mess. Because, yes, they got pregnant, and the maid got pregnant with Ishmael and gave it to Sarah. But then one day, Sarah got pregnant with Isaac in her 70s or 60s. Theologians dispute the age. She got pregnant with Isaac and gave birth to the promise that she was sure God had forgotten about. It was all about the right timing. Fast forward into Isaac's late teens, early 20s, he and his father ascend a mountain, and I talk about this often. And in the ascension of the mountain, he was tested. That Abraham spoke to God and said, I need you to sacrifice this thing. And Abraham was like, God, the son you promised me you want me to sacrifice, the son I had to wait for, the son that almost caused me to fight and leave my life because we made Ishmael the not actual true son. And God said, yeah, that's the one. Take your knife and sharpen it and lay him out on the stone and slice that knife through his chest and past his bone and give him to me. The Bible was brutal. And Abraham prepared to do it, raising his knife in the air. And as he did, they said a ram came from the bush. And God said, stop. I just wanted to see if he would go there. God is interesting. But here's the point. All of that testing happened because of disobedience according to the word, right? Whether you believe in it, subscribe to it or not, these were the stories that I heard. But the premise of any Bible story is to give allegory and metaphor. All of us have an Ishmael and an Isaac, something that we covet more than we covet waiting for the right timing. And sometimes we ignore the pick of destiny. Isaac was the pick of destiny. Ishmael was a mess made, God bless it, And God did bless him because he allowed him to have his birthright. But the situation is, Sarah took things into her own hands, as we often do, and gave life to something that wasn't promised and, according to God, quote unquote, wasn't true. We're not going to dispute anybody's baby. That is not my position. Now, what I will tell you here that I thought was really interesting is that many of us have Ishmael and Isaac situations in our life where we are so desperate to get on with our life that we create our own pick of destiny, whether that's in partnerships, whether that's a baby, whether that's a job, whether that's a health regimen, whether that's a different option, whether that's a boyfriend, whether that's a girlfriend, whether that's a husband, a wife, a friend, a business partnership. We sometimes get so impatient. We take an Ishmael. We create an Ishmael. Ishmael was not the promise, but Isaac was. For Trisha, she didn't create an Ishmael, but she said she would have gotten pregnant by any guy. But her Isaac was clearly Moses. And now that we see them together, we understand why. He is calming, he is receptive, he is emotionally available, he is able to give her clarity, honesty, and guidance in a way that no other boyfriend or husband, because he's her husband, was patient enough to do. Again, whether they stick together is up to them, not between me and you. But we do know that God chose a peaceful moment in her life where all of the synapses in her brain had calmed down and were firing right, where she wasn't manic and wasn't swinging, even though she's Trisha. We never know what she's bringing. And he allowed that body to be in alignment with conception. There is a certain basal temperature that a woman's body has to be at during conception. There are hormonal balances that must be in place, and balance, God bless it, is not something that often comes Trisha's way in any capacity. So, for the miracle of life to occur in her, she had to change her thought processes, but also wait for the universe, God's perfect timing. I forced somebody to become something that, yes, they had raw talent to be. To deny that would be to be a liar, and that's not anything that is in my energy. Someone that I knew was a dark empath, if you will. They were gifted. They channeled really well when they were drunk or lifted, meaning high on drugs. They could give you incredible messages, but they were dark all the way through. And they could not bring the levity and balance that my partner currently does do. In that, I'm able to work with someone who is professional with a work ethic that astounds me. We complement each other on our work ethics, but we both work to be the best we can be separately. We don't need to pep talk each other. We don't need to edify each other. We don't need to lift each other up, but we always do fill each other's cup. That was not something that I would have gotten from the Ishmael in my life, the person who I was trying to put in the position and make it fit just right. Her motto with me was, I don't want to blow your head up, so I will not give you too much love, acknowledgement, or compliments or anything. I was malnourished through and through, and I thrive under proper nourishment. It was never going to be with someone like her. And my angels knew it. So no matter how much I tried and tried, it reminds me of a Cat Williams comedy sketch where he's like, tried it this way, fix it this way. I tried to re engineer that relationship a million ways until one day God blew it up and swept it away. He said, I told you to stop. My ancestors stepped in, my angels stepped in. They said, this is not where your pick of destiny begins. This person's so utterly wrong for you in every single way. Not only is she not supportive, but she doesn't want to see you succeed and go on to play, to have happy energy. She wants nothing good for you. She wishes you atrophy. Guys, it was the opposite of growth. It was complete squelching of my precious empath energy. Dark empaths hate when you find your worth because they delight and they actually feed off of people in sadness and toxic low vibrational energy. That gives them light. She would seek out ways to crush people and come up with things in the night and be evil and hurtful and exclusionary, not just to me, but to everybody. Mackenzie? Anybody? No one knows who that is, but someone knows who that is. She was purposefully mean and delighted in it to everybody, whether it was her cousins, her nieces, her whomever, her nephews. She made fun of people and it was cruel. And this is a person that I kept trying to make it work with to say, well, she's a dark empath. I didn't know she was a dark empath then, so those weren't words that I was wrapping around her. But I was like, well, she has a gift and she does paranormal stuff. And my angels always told me I was going to work with somebody who had that connection and that we would travel and teach and do things, etc., etc. And I was already beginning my journey, but I kept trying to fit her in to my pick of destiny. She was my pick, my being the operative word. God had nothing to do with it. And he kept trying to wave flags and tell me, this is not her. This is not your person. She has fur. Let me explain. She was a werewolf. She was a shapeshifter. She was evil. It reminds me of Thriller. It's close to midnight. Something, something creeping. Yeah, she was that, but not as fun or as sexy as that video could be. I remember watching Michael shapeshift into a werewolf when I was a kid and being terrified. That's before CGI existed, and still the special effects got me in the 80s. I didn't sleep. And they said the same is paralleled with your pick of destiny. Sleep with one eye open. She's your enemy. So many of us try to make someone fit into our vision and the prophecy and what we think we know. And tonight, when I worked with my client and with my partner, and we helped someone release a paranormal malevolent activity and entity and let it go, I realized this is everything that I needed to know. I would never have any room to grow with the Ishmael that I had chosen to fit into my life. I could never give birth to my businesses, to my ideas. She was always going to cause me strife. Back to Trisha and the little thing growing inside. We don't get blessings sometimes until we're in the right frame of mind. Trisha could not have manifested this. It was with Jason. That was her ex. With Jason or with anybody else. Moses had the right temperament, clearly, because they actually manifested the baby. Before even doing IVF treatments, that was their next step. They had begun some process, but it wasn't full out IVF. I was ready to take artificial means to help the Ishmael in my life be part of what I thought was my destiny. I remember setting her an itinerary a few years ago, long before I had to let it go, long before she was guided to sabotage the relationship by whatever angels she listens to, whether they are hell demons and spawns or not. But she was also guided that this isn't for me, maybe it's for you. But I sent her an itinerary, and I wanted to treat her to like a trip around the country, and I wanted to go here, there, and there, and here, and here. And I was like, okay, we're going to fly here, and then we're going to fly here, and we're going to go here, and we're going to do this. And then I'm going to meet you, and then we're going to have dinner, and XYZ to the third power. And it was maybe 3 stops. It's not as overwhelming as I'm making it sound. And one of the stops was Colorado. And then back to like Chicago. Like I had an idea in mind. And she literally was overwhelmed by it. And I understand now why. Because she already had her real pick of destiny. The Isaac that was promised to her was already in her life. She was just lying to me. It's interesting how we will lie to ourselves and have multiple duplicities. I was being duplicitous with myself, that she was actually a right pick of destiny for me. And she had a double life, triple life, quadruple life, completely. It reminds me of Kimora Lee Simmons recently. Her baby's father and husband has been actually found fraudulent of having four multiple lives and multiple wives at the same time. And that's who my pick of destiny reminds me of, except far lower class and with much less money. But what I will say is that the reason I realize now, all these years later, at the time I was like, why is this so uncomfortable for her? I'm like gonna pay for all of the things, make sure she's good. We're gonna have like the adventure of a lifetime. It's because she couldn't leave all of the many families that she had started with her polyamory and polygamy and bullshit. That was not the way it could go for her. And she was like probably panicked. Now that I think about it, it's kind of funny because she was like, oh my God, how am I going to tell Lindsay? And how am I going to tell Mackenzie? And how am I going to tell, like, I'm just naming names, but how is she going to tell all these bitches that she has like business to do? She didn't have business to do. I had business to do. And it was never supposed to be with her. You get it, guys? That's what I was trying to create because that made me feel safe because I didn't trust God to do so much better than I ever could. I don't have to pay for my partner's anything. We quite literally have the most hilarious fights over money because we both can buy anything we want. I don't have to bribe her. I don't have to get her a ticket. I don't have to do anything. And she surprises me all the time with things, like I said to that person that was my pick of destiny. Let's fly here or let's go there or I'll see you here. And I surprise her too. Because that's something, when someone aligns you right, the person, when God aligns you right with the right person, it's something that you will do. It's easy. It's so much easier than I thought it was ever going to be. Because the person that was not part of my destiny fought me every step of the way. That's a quick tell. Just like Trisha received resistance energetically, meaning she could never carry to fruition, she never got pregnant. That was the universe saying it's not time. And sometimes that's a hard thing to define and we don't want to hear it. But I was receiving a lot of, it's not time. Don't go near it. Not only does this person not love you, she's actually dangerous. Because, yes, she is gifted in a raw way. But in order to really cultivate a gift, you have to cherish it, you have to nurture it, and you have to be responsible with it. Just like Trisha carrying her baby. She has to take vitamins and prenatals and eat well and not dye her hair. There are steps that we take to bring a baby here, right? The same thing is true of a business or a relationship. You have to nurture it. And specifically with a spiritual gift, you have to nurture it. Every single person listening to this is psychic. Every single one of you are. Every single one of you had a premonition or an intuition, and it's come true. You've watched it unfold before you. The difference between every single one of you listening and some of the practitioners in the world, one of them including myself, is practice. Thousands of hours poured into this. So when I say I'm surgical with this shit, it doesn't mean that I'm the best surgeon. It just means that I've practiced it over and over and over. I've learned from context clues. I've learned what to and not do. I've learned how to handle malevolent spirits. I've learned how to clear my energy. I've learned how to communicate with my angels. I've learned how to create synergy. I've learned how to pull a reading from a song. I've learned how to listen to a bird. I've learned how to take advice from a spider, even if it's a word I did not want to heard, did not want to hear. I never love when spiders are near, but I even had to make peace with that as a practitioner. I learned about alchemy and creation. I learned about protection and blocking. I have immersed myself into a thing, and when you want something so badly, you practice it over and over and over. And for Trisha, practicing for a baby is a lot more fun. But now she has the responsibility of managing it, taking care of it energetically, and for the rest of its life. You never stop being a parent. You never stop being a mother. And so if you're birthing a business or a spiritual business or a baby or a bakery, it is practice until you are the best you can be. Yes, we're all psychic. Yes, we all can create life, women listening. And some of us can't create life in that capacity, but it doesn't mean that there's not another way that you don't enjoy fertility. I have poured my soul into my work because that was my pick of destiny. Sometimes we don't have it all and we don't get it all. This is what I've got. And that's why I protected it with everything in me, just like I would a baby. That's not my reality. So when I see people manifest that, I think, wow, I'm so proud they've created life. But it doesn't stop just because you're pregnant. It starts when you're pregnant. You've just begun. It's no more games and fun. So when I say everybody here is psychic, I mean it. But when I talk about my Ishmael not being able to be a partner, what I mean by that is she would not have handled the responsibility well. She's someone who shirked responsibilities quite easily, whether it was her child or her pets. She was laissez faire. Maybe she did or didn't care. It just depended on the day, the drugs, or the other stimuli coming her way. That does not. Pardon me, guys, as I get a wipe here for my face. Um, um, uh, it depended on what other stimuli was coming her way. And that does not a good partner make, especially for spirituality, for goodness sake. I take my work seriously, just like a mother takes care of their baby. And when I expanded my business to work in paranormal activities, as it was always promised to me, Isaac was always promised to me, figuratively speaking, expanding the work that I did tonight with my bestie. Go check out the video. Was always something that was in the cards for me, but I had to have the right person, and that only happened in the right timing with the right pick of destiny. I didn't pick it, and believe it or not, God picked so much better than me. Some of the add-ons, some of the build-ins, some of the bonuses that I got with this best friend, I didn't even know were possible. It's so incredible. I'm so grateful. And it means that I'm able to expand exactly how I saw it in the prophecy. But I was being foolish, and I thought I had to build it myself. And I had Ishmael, who did not mean me well, and would have only destroyed all of the hard work and energy I've put into a thing. What does that mean for Ishmael? Are they worthless? No. Ishmael linked up with other dark empaths, other narcissists, and other people that had their own dark gifts. And I guess they wreak havoc on their corner of the world. I don't know. And I don't care because I now know my Isaac is here. But Isaac only came in right timing and it wasn't forced. It's like this woman came out of the sky, like on a comet from the north somewhere, from another galaxy. We always joke, she's my alien. We're each other's aliens. And it's the best that it could be, but it's because I didn't force the destiny. I didn't know how we would find each other. And so I tried to create something that was an other, that was a no, into my reality. And God released it ever so abruptly from me and told me this was never what we had destined for thee. We had someone who had calmness and who had boundaries and who had a million things that person never would have. And what that person would be bringing into your work is a lot of dark energies because she is consumed by them. And this is not just a bashing session, but I want you guys to look at the people in your life, boyfriends, girlfriends, partnerships, business or otherwise, that you've had with people that you've tried to force round pegs into square holes, all that thing, or square pegs into round holes, and then look and see if later you didn't get a relationship that more was in line with what you really who were and who you really are and where you were going. But it's all about the right time. I couldn't have made this happen. Also, message, I had to develop some skills. I had to put in my 10,000 hours to prove to God and the universe that what I said I wanted was real. We all want things, but what does that mean? I'm being tested still. How did I start out the video? More videos than people with millions, and I have less than 1,000 or 1,000 or more. Guys, understand, I still barely have my foot in the door. God is saying, how bad do you want it? One day these numbers will jump and it will be different. Something magic will happen. Alchemy. And God will say, you put in the dues, you paid your dues, and now it's your pick of destiny. And so I grind until that time. Because a mother doesn't give up on their baby. Whether it's in gestation or when they're 18. When they disappoint you or when they fulfill their dreams. We keep rooting for them. A lot of us are watching Genius, which is Kanye West documentary, and Donda West, his mother, a life path 33, who was an ultimate teacher. I did a video about Kim and Kanye, and I talk about that life path, her life path, and why she was so important to Kanye as an alchemist and helping him create. But that life path is the archetype of mother and teacher. That's how we become great. Mothers have patience and temerity, and they wait, and they know that in their child there is a destiny. And even if no one in the world sees it, they still encourage it. There's a clip where Kanye play when it all falls down. I can't sing, y'all, that's not my gift. But Kanye plays it, and it is his gift to create music. He plays it for executives who could have cared less, and it went on to be on the charts, #1 in so many ways, and to win awards, and to slay continuously to this day. People don't know what you have in store. My Ishmael laughed at me, made fun of me, with whomever else she linked up with, thought my life was a joke. She didn't know that I was working quietly in the lab, and that it wasn't a joke. Here on YouTube, it hasn't popped yet, but yet is the operative word. But in my work and in my actual career life, it popped, all right. It popped in the best way. I was self-actualized, I was validated, and I was seen in my career path. I was validated by my clients. And in that regard, I had the last laugh. But it wasn't at anybody else. It was her laughing at me. Isn't that interesting? The same person that I insisted to God was my pick of destiny didn't really believe in me as I ascended. When you have Ishmaels in your life, don't be offended. They are purposely not allowed to see your vision. God hides you in plain sight so that they laugh at you, only to years later think of you in the night. Kanye comes to mind again. In the night, coldest story ever told. Somewhere something about my soul. Heartless. Your Ishmaels are heartless, guys. They don't know the tears you've cried. They don't know the hours you've put in. They don't know from where you did begin. I speak over anybody here battling between Ishmael and Isaac, trying to force something to work before it's time. I want you to back up and take a look and say a prayer and say, if this is not for me, God, remove it from me. Point me in the right direction to my pick of destiny. I promise you, it's so much better than you could ever dream. It's so much better than you could ever make it. And for sweet Trish Paytas, she now knows something that those of us who manifest know, that with a vision board and a redirection and a spiritual journey, anything can grow. I love you guys. And sometimes you get this, and that's why I ask you to continue to come back and join me, and we will continue to evolve together.